Hello, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Shauna from Created and Made, and today I'm going to show you guys how I made this really cute, really functional gift box using gel prints and some stencils from a colorful life designs.com. Now, I have little journals in here where you can put your gift cards, you can put several things in this box. It has a versatile magnetic closure, and I'm going to show you how I did this. Fun stuff ahead. Stay tuned. Okay, so let's just jump right in. I started off with some paper that measures 18 inches by 7.5 inches. Now, I had a piece of 12 by 12 watercolor paper that I cut down to 7.5 by 18. Or, as you can do as I'm showing here, is joining two pieces of 8.5 by 11 inch paper. Now, I pre-cut them down to 11 by 7.5, and I'm just joining them together. And then I'm going to trim this down to 18 inches. So, if you don't have a sheet that's 12 by 18, you can create an 18 inch by 7.5 inch piece of paper yourself. Now, once you have your paper ready, I'm going to do my gel printing now. Now, I made this little template because I'm always like messing up the spacing. Well, I don't mess it up. I just think it could be better, the spacing, when I'm doing these like ombre prints. Printed out a little template on my printer, and I use that to create this beautiful rainbow print. Now I'm taking my piece of 18 inch by 7.5 inch watercolor paper, and I am printing my rainbow onto there. Now, as you can see, that's only about half of it, or a little more than half. And so I'm going to go ahead and do another piece here that's going to finish off the rainbow on the entire sheet of paper. Now, I am using Lucas Krill acrylic paints and a double-handed brayer, as you see there. All of the materials I'm using are linked in the description if you're interested in them. So I'm getting my print together here, and when I'm done, as you can see, I have a full 18-inch rainbow. So it's ready to be stenciled. Now, this is a really cool stencil from Colorful Life Designs, of course, and it is called the Bold Angles Stencil. Now, I'm just taping it down to my gel plate. Now, the gel plate, you don't need a gel plate anymore, like I'm done printing, but I find that it has some good, so it kind of like holds the paper still. It has some good grip, so I'm using it to hold my paper down, but then I added a little bit of painter's tape there for the stencil. And I'm going in with a little mushroom head pouncer. And I have this sped up, obviously, but the key to doing this and not having it go to under the stencil too much is just to sort of layer it in phases. Like, you can't get it all in dark like this in one pass. You just have to do a little bit of paint at a time so that you don't have too much sort of moisture on the pouncer. And because if you have a lot of paint on there, that's a good recipe for it to go under the stencil. Now, obviously, this is an 18-inch long piece of paper. My stencil is a 6 by 9, so I have to do a sort of a few different sections here. And like, when I got done with it, I just sort of like mirrored it. Like, I think I'm going to show you here. Like, I sort of flipped the stencil this way to do the next phase so that it kind of has a mirrored image when I'm done printing it. And once again, I'm going to take my pouncer and just do some light pouncing to get this design transferred over with not too much transfer under the stencil. I mean, this is a very thin stencil with a lot of pieces that are sort of unattached that move around a lot. So I was pretty impressed, actually, pat myself on the back, that I was able to get such a great image without too much going under the stencil. I finished it off here, some of the smaller spaces, with a Q-tip, and voila, there you have it. I have my whole 18-inch long piece of watercolor paper that is ready to be transformed into a gift box after I put this finish on it. Now, this is some satin finished Mod Podge. It's like the sprayable Mod Podge, but I've actually put it into a bowl and I'm applying it with a paintbrush because I find it easier to do that way, and it leaves no brush strokes. It's actually a really great finish for stuff like this that's going to be used sort of not in the standard art journal sort of fashion. Okay, so in my box that I showed you guys, I'm actually putting three sort of art journals or whatever kind of journals with blank paper. You can use them for art or writing or whatever. I'm putting three journals. Now, I just want to show you guys really quickly how I created my journals. I started off with paper, as you saw, that was 6x9. This wasn't the best sort of gel print transfer there, but it really didn't matter because I ended up stenciling over it, of course. And so there's three of them. So I did just a few different sort of ombre selections, and here's the third one with a more, I think that's mauve and orange and a light pink color, one of my favorite color combinations actually. And so I created three different ombre effects, and now I'm going to go over them with three stencils from A Colorful Life Designs. This is the Pike stencil, and I kind of sort of wanted to go all, I ended up using the bold angle stencil again with one of these books, but I wanted to have sort of theme of these sort of sharp angle geometric stencil patterns, and I really enjoy those kind of patterns, and they have a great selection of those at A Colorful Life Design. So that was the Pikes, I believe it's called. Again, I mirrored the design on the other half of the stencil, of the paper. This one came out really great. Square frame stencil, again, mirrored on, because this is a 6x6 and the paper is 6x9, so I did a little extra portion on the 3-inch side. And then this was the same bold angle stencil that I used on the larger paper earlier. And so it's 6x9. I didn't have to do any mirroring there. So I have my 3 sheets of paper here, and really easily I'm going to create some journals really fast, really quick. I'm scoring all these sheets at 4.5 inches. And I'm just going to fold them over. These are booklet style. I have some blank papers, some craft paper, some white paper. I think there's some parchment colored paper that I placed in there. Now these pages they're 8.5 by 11-inch pages cut in half, so they're a little bit smaller than the cover sheets. But I cut them in half and then fold them in half. And then I have a booklet stapler. Obviously, not everyone has this. It's really easy to just staple these books in the center, though. This booklet stapler just helps you kind of get it right there on the peak of the book. And just 2 staples in, boom, boom, and we are done with the attaching the paper. Now, as you can see, the cover is a little bit larger than the paper, as I mentioned. And so after I'm done stapling these, I'm going to trim them down so that they have a nice clean edge. You don't have to do this part, especially if these journals are just for you, but I do like to give my journals a nice clean edge when I'm making them. And so this is my Carl trimmer. I have a lot of extra equipment that most people probably don't have, but I find this trimmer is really great for doing larger pieces like this. You can always trim stuff like this down with a ruler and an X-Acto knife. I just find it faster to use this, and I have it, so I use it. It has quite a large footprint, but I've had it for years. I use it for everything, and so it is quite easy to trim this thickness of a book down to the way that I want it to be. Okay, so now I'm going to do my scoring to go ahead and put this box together. I wrote down all my scoring measurements up there at the top. And so I'm scoring first at 2.5 inches, then 7 inches. I'm doing a double score because it's kind of a thick paper, right? Then 7 3/4 of an inch. Then you need to rotate the paper because obviously the paper is longer than the scoreboard, and you're going to score at 2.5 inches, 5 inches, and then 5.75 inches. And that's it for the 18-inch side. So then you want to turn it to the 7.5-inch side, and you're going to score at 0.75 or 3/4 of an inch. and then 6.75 inches. And you're going to go all the way down to the end of the scoreboard, rotate it. We're going to rotate again and then do it again. 0.75 inches and 6.75 inches. And that's all the scoring we'll need to do to make this box. Now you can go ahead and take a picture of that or pause it right there so you can see all the measurements if you'd like. Now we're going to go ahead and fold up all of these score lines. I have my bone folder. You want to go a little easy on the finish. You don't want to scrape it up or anything. Even though it's got that Mod Podge over the top, it's pretty sturdy. But you still want to, be careful with the bone folders. And I'm going to go ahead and crease all of my score lines on both the 18.5 inch and the 18 inch side and the 7.5 inch side. So I have everything all folded up here. And you'll notice one side is 2.5 inches and 4.5 inches, and the other half is 2.5 inches and 2.5 inches. Now I'm starting on the side that has 2.5 inches at the bottom and then a 4.5 inch section there. And you see what I'm doing here. I am drawing lines where things will need to be trimmed off. Now, when you're cutting something like this, my advice is to cut the score lines off. Anytime you're removing something, to cut the score lines off. That'll help later when you're trying to fold the box into shape. Now, I'm trying to I slowed this part of the video down. I'm trying to show you guys where these lines sort of bump up against my score lines. I don't know how well you can see it, but I am just drawing everything out so that you can see all the pieces that you'll need to remove. And now we're going to cut them out together. Now I'm using my Tim Holtz shears and I'm going in and just, as I mentioned before, cutting off the score line. The score line should not still be visible once you're done removing these pieces. And for the ones where you just, you're not cutting anything off like that, you're just sort of cutting a straight line, you just want to cut straight through the center of the score line, and that should work well enough. Now some of these are angled, as you can see, because we're creating tabs. So these tabs are going to be folded up and glued, and so how much of an angle you cut is not super important. Like, it's not that important that it needs to be super precise here. But you just want to remember you're cutting a tab, and you're going to, as you see when we do it, you're going to be folding these up and gluing them, so they need to be easily foldable and able to fit into the space where we're placing them. Now, as you see here, this is the 2.5 side and the 4.5 side. As we mentioned before, it has 2.5 inches at the bottom and then a 4.5 inch section. And what I'm doing here is that I'm measuring 1.5 inches from each score line, from the nearest scored line up into the 4.5 inch section. And I am creating sort of a cross here, a cross space. 1.5 inches from the right, 1.5 inches from the left, and 1.5 inches from the bottom for both of these. Now these are where we are placing our magnets. So in the center of those 1.5 inch where they cross, I'm just sticking a glue dot. Yeah, that's all that you need is a sticky glue dot, right? And I have some 1/4 inch craft style magnets. I will link to some similar ones in the description, and you're just glue dotting them at the moment. Now the reason why this is fine and like you don't really need to worry about adhering it any more than that is because now we're gonna glue this little flap down on top of them, and this is art glitter glue. It works fine with paper crafts like this, even gluing on top of metal. You just want to get a good sort of coating of the glue. I put some extra on top and then fold it over. You want to burnish that. I put some weight on top of it and let it dry, and you should be good to go. The magnets are nice and hidden there in that panel. And now we're going to go ahead and fold up the main body of the box. Now you have 3 pieces there: an outside slot, a little tab in the middle, and then an inside slot, right? I decided to go ahead and angle these tabs a little bit more. Not necessary for you to do. If you like to do it, you can. It'll still work. I just wanted to make it a little deeper of an angle tab, make it easier to fold up. So this part where we're going to put glue on the painted edge, right? That's going to go on the inside of the sort of sandwich that we're making. So there's a inside part, a middle part, and an external part. The one that's painted is the inside part. You're not going to see that once you fold it up. The little tab goes in between them, and then the outside part is the part that you see. So you'll see what I mean once I actually fold this up. See, there's the tab that goes in the middle. It's stuck to that inside part that we're not going to see, and then this external part just gets folded up on top of everything. And I did both sides simultaneously because it's just easier. It doesn't seem easier but it is easier that way. And before the glue starts to catch, you want to make sure the whole box is sort of squared off, that everything is where it should be. And this art glitter glue, it's good because it gives you a little bit of working time and ability to sort of get things in place before it really is stuck down. Now, as you can see, that external edge is all that we see there, and I'm burnishing in everything down so that that whole little sandwich, as I call it, is stuck together. And that is really the main body of the box, right? I have these tabs here that really the only function for these is to give this part of the box a nice clean edge, because otherwise it would sort of be unfinished. And so that's why I angled it down a little bit more. That's why it doesn't really matter how much you angle it, just as long as it fits inside of this space and can sort of lay flush and give this a nice clean edge. And now we have some more tabs that we're going to glue down. And again, you could cut these off, but it would give it sort of an unfinished edge there. And so I just fold them down to give it a finished look. That's the only purpose that these serve. And now we have to attach the other side of our magnets for our closure. Let's see, I just laid those magnets down, and they jumped to where the other magnets that we placed, they jumped to where they were. And that's just sort of a super easy way to get your magnet placement done very well. And I put some glue dots on top, and now you have to get the closure really square and exactly where it needs to be. Stick it to the magnets and pull it right off. And it's very easy this way to get your magnets perfectly placed. Like I said, I had some glue dots on top, and if you get the cover closed up exactly where it needs to be closed up, then your magnet placement should be no problem at all. And just like the other side, you want to get some glue on this, fold it down, get it burnished, put some weight on it, let it dry, and there you have it. Your box should close up really snugly, really securely. And I pulled my other journals out. They were sitting under some weight, and put them, and they fit right inside of that box perfectly. Now, when I looked at this, I thought it could use a little something on the front, because it didn't end up, the way I folded it, it didn't end up with too many of the other colors visible in the front. So I thought it could use something to punch it up a little bit. And this is just a piece of wood, a dome piece of wood that I had. I don't know why I had it, but I had it laying around. And I painted it yellow, and I'm just sticking it right on the top, and it ended up looking like sort of like a purse. And it fits these 3 books just perfectly. And if you are into cards, greeting cards, it can fit, I think it was a dozen I fit in there. I think I'm going to show it here now. Yeah, it was a dozen A2 size cards along with a dozen envelopes. So although it's a small box, it's kind of spacious in there. You can fit a good bit in there. Now, this was a really cute project, and these stencils were a great addition. And you can check out the stencils at colorfullifedesigns.com. I'll leave a link in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please go ahead and leave a like, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I hope to see you guys next time, and in the meantime, keep creating and making. Bye bye.